Good evening, good evening. It's so very good to be here this evening. Wasn't the choir just delightful? I just love that. And yeah, please. And I had the best seat in the house, sitting where I was. And from where I was sitting, I could see the conductor with all her vim and vigor, directing and mouthing the words to all the songs. And it might not have been an issue did I not suffer from a certain condition. I'd like to think it's called breakout in songolitis. And it took all the strength in the world not to sing along. But even then, there's going to be a video on YouTube very soon with me with a silly grin on my face, mouthing the words to Les Miserables. It's okay. My wife is here, so that restrains me. I know, I don't want to embarrass my wife. It's so good to be here. What a great pleasure, what a great honor for both of us to spend this special evening with you. In fact, it's so special that I need to ask you to keep a little secret from me. I need you to do me a favor. You've already let me come and speak to you, but I need another favor. Because I'm standing here today in a suit and a tie. This is the first time in about 13 years that I've worn a tie. My wife's never seen me in a tie. In fact, for our wedding, the compromise I was willing to make was a very eccentric looking bow tie. But now that I'm here, I need you not to tell anyone. Because I've been fighting and resisting wearing a tie for as long as I can remember, and I don't want anyone to know. Because if they do, they'll make me do this all the time. And I don't want to. And if you tell on me, I'll deny it. You know, it's such a testament to the spirit in this school that you're all here this evening. Particularly you girls. I think to myself, I'm a Hiltonian, and the moment they let us out the gates, they will never see us again. So the fact that some of you have already finished with school and are here tonight, and I hear will be here again tomorrow, tells me something very special about this school. It tells me something very special about you. It tells me how you feel about this place and how it's been to you. And I'm sure for those of you leaving, today is a bittersweet evening. The end of something beautiful and the beginning of something new and exciting. I hope that in the time that we spend together this evening, I'll be able to keep you awake, while at the same time sharing something of meaning and value. When I received the invitation to come and be with you this evening, I rather agonized, more than usual, about what to share this evening. In the end, I asked myself, if I had a daughter, what would I want her to know about life and the world awaiting her? And therefore this evening it is my intention to challenge you girls, that you are possessed with certain strengths and abilities that men often lack, but that the world is in desperate need of. To affirm that God has made you for a purpose that only you can fulfill. To demonstrate that it is only in men and women working collaboratively together and bringing their gifts to the public square that we can overcome the intractable global challenges facing us. I will contend that it is down to the fact that women are stronger in three important aspects, that they are pivotal in leadership. Firstly, that they are stronger in multitasking. Second, that they are better negotiators. And finally, that they have the capacity to show compassion. I know that many of you girls sitting here this evening already feel empowered and emboldened. You are already living with the dreams and plans of the wonderful things you plan to do and see as you leave the comforting shelter of this beautiful place. Yet I will make the case today that there is still more ground to be taken, that there is even more needed from you than the previous generation of women. Not just for your own sake, but for all our sakes. 2,000 years of often disastrous male leadership show that you girls can't take the risk of leaving it up to us men any longer. It's no longer enough for women to participate. This is a call to leadership. Your world needs you. So, just what kind of world are we living in? Like never before, we are living through transformative times. We are seeing the world reshaped before our very eyes in ways that would have seemed unthinkable a mere 5 years ago. The Arab Spring, the set of democratic mass movements that have swept across the Middle East, toppling regimes that seemed set in stone in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Lebanon, and in Libya, is the defining social phenomenon of our times. I would propose to you that what has transpired on the streets of Damascus and Sana'a and Tunis is evidence of a tectonic shift in the balance of power between citizens and their rulers everywhere. The stubbornness of extreme poverty, the threat of nuclear Armageddon, the cancer of racial discrimination, the rise of religious fundamentalism, and the alarming increase in income inequality have made the future ever more uncertain. And the feminization of poverty means that women bear the disproportionate burden of all these social ills. In fact, a UN dictum puts it this way: women do 2/3 of the work, earn 10% of the income, and own only 1% of the means of production. Tired of this bleak spectre and their leaders' inability to forge solutions, people everywhere have been given permission to believe in their ability to change their own circumstances and to seek redress by whatever means necessary. Right here in our own country, South Africans are angry. As angry as they've been in a generation. At the moment, their anger is untamed, oftentimes irrational, exploding in unexpected places against unexpected targets. Sometimes it's the government, sometimes it's the foreigners, and sometimes it's business. But this anger is growing and shows no sign of dissipating. These are but a handful of the expressions of the endemic public discontent being felt by citizens in many parts of the world today, in places as disparate as London and Bangkok. These, my friends, are different times. What all these dire situations demonstrate is the acute crisis in leadership at all levels. It is a crisis of the imagination. It is a crisis of the spirit. And I would submit today to you today that it is self-evidently a male crisis. Men still dominate positions of power and influence in nearly every sphere of life, including business and politics. And it would seem our male leaders simply cannot find solutions to what I call the Big Five questions facing the world today. Again, these are namely the effects of global warming, the nuclear arms threat, racial and religious discrimination, poverty, and income inequality. These are the existential time bombs, which, if left unresolved, will result in untold conflict and devastation and misery for the generations to come. The future depends on you girls getting involved. The future depends on you taking up the mantle of leadership. Your world needs you. But the question naturally arises. Why aren't we making any progress? Well, a big part of the problem is that men tend to be binary thinkers. We perceive the world largely in terms of X's and O's, in terms of yeses and nos, and winning and losing. This is zero-sum thinking. Someone has to win and someone has to lose. And this is the cancer eating away at our moral conscience and undermining our attempts to solve the big problems. And today's big idea is that part of the answer lies in having more women in positions of leadership and influence. Well, how would that make any difference, I hear you asking? What would women bring to the table that men don't already? Well, let me tell you. A recent study completed at the University of Glasgow has added further weight to the emerging scientific consensus that women are indeed better at multitasking than men. Now, we've all seen the mom who's feeding the baby with one hand whilst typing on the laptop with the other, whilst talking on the phone at the same time without her hair even falling out of place. In fact, I suspect some of you moms are that mom here today. Now, whilst conventional wisdom has held this to be true for some time, a number of recent studies have seen science catching up to the anecdotes. This particular study asked groups of men and women to complete a number of everyday tasks. Everything from locating maps, restaurants on a map, solving maths puzzles, and developing strategies to find a set of lost keys in an open field. The participants were asked to complete this task as best as they could in 8 minutes. And just to make things more interesting, the participants would receive a phone call mid-task and asked to answer a number of general knowledge questions. The study's result found that the women demonstrably outperformed the men. No surprise there. And this was particularly true in those tasks that required a high level of cognitive reasoning. Now, besides this being a little amusing and a joke you can tell to your friends, what does this all mean? Well, in a world where everything gets more complicated by the day, there is a premium on those able to make sense out of the noise. In the tangled web of claims and counterclaims, historical mistakes, and real-time chaos that characterizes most modern-day challenges, you girls are better equipped to make better choices. And this is an absolutely crucial ingredient that we need in today's leadership. Now, despite what you might think, I would also propose to you that women are better negotiators than men. But you must be joking, is what many of you are thinking. Don't men tend to advance more quickly than women in the workplace, even when they're less competent, precisely because they're better negotiators? Well, this depends on the kind of negotiation you're doing. This goes back to the zero-sum game. Men are indeed better at winner-takes-all scenarios, where only one of us can get the job, where if you don't give me a raise, I'll leave. But in truth, the real challenges facing the world today are the ones that matter at least. The ones to do with war and peace are not binary in nature. It can't be Israel saying to Palestine, submit or face annihilation. You know, kind of like in the movies, the Star Wars. You know? It can't be the poor saying to the rich, give me all your money or I'll burn the house down. This is the kind of negotiation that has solved precisely nothing in the last 50 years and has multiplied the deep-seated resentments of so many conquered peoples. No. Rather, we need precisely the kind of negotiation that women are better at. It's the kind of negotiation that seeks affinity and common ground. It's the kind of negotiation that is concerned with relationship and mutual best interest. It's the kind of negotiation that produces win-win solutions that are more collaborative and therefore more durable. I see this all the time with my wife. When faced with a problematic situation, she invariably finds a way to thread the needle, while all I can think to do is to bash the walls down. My family and I live in Durban, in Glenwood to be specific, and every day I drop my son and wife off at school and work respectively. And we do the same thing in reverse in the afternoons. This means we spend a good deal of time driving together as a family. And almost every day we will find ourselves at the traffic light and have the light tap on the window of someone begging for food or money. And my initial instinct, all too often, is to avert my gaze. It saddens me more than you know that this is true, but true it is. But not my beautiful wife. Her first instinct is to help. Her heart leaps into action and immediately wants to get involved. And she will challenge me as her husband to engage and do the right thing, which is to demonstrate compassion with the plight of those less fortunate, rather than to rationalize or justify my apathy. Anytime she sees someone in pain or in trouble, her instinct is to reach out and lend a helping hand. And I know that you girls sitting here this evening are just like my wife. And that's how we all ought to be. And just to show that this isn't just me being schmaltzy, or being nice about my wife, the British ethicist Roger Stella, who has administered what's called the moral DNA test to over 60,000 people, concluded that women make decisions on how they impact others, which tends to produce better decisions. Men, on the other hand, tend to be more self-interested. There is no greater example of this kind of selflessness than that of Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who devoted her life to serving others, and in so doing, shaped the minds and hearts of an entire generation. It is this kind of compassionate leadership that can foster the goodwill that will always be necessary to solve the big challenges. You see, it seems to me that we've been trying to balance a mathematical formula with a missing term. Or said another way, we've been trying to bake a cake with a missing ingredient. And that missing ingredient is you girls, you women, and the part that you can play in shaping decision-making to make the world a better place. Women see issues differently than men, and if women were able to participate more fully in political platforms, then we would see significantly different outcomes. I suspect the history of the last 15 years would look very, very different had we had women presidents. I suspect had it been a lady as opposed to George W. Bush, I suspect we might not have seen as much war as we have over the past decade. I suspect if it were women leading the agenda, we might not have seen this incredible deterioration in the poverty statistics in the world today. Women do things differently. Women ensure that better decisions are made. And sadly, women only hold approximately 15% of elected positions in government around the world. And this needs to change. There is now ever more data that demonstrates that educating the girl child is the single most powerful and sustainable intervention that can be made in any community. That educating one girl has far greater catalytic impact than almost any other kind of help you could give to eradicate poverty. Girls who receive an education are less likely to conceive prematurely and are more likely to become productive and economically active members of the community. And therefore, there are few more important imperatives for us to support than the education of girls. Now, with all that having been said, I don't want to leave this place today with you thinking that I'm advocating some anti-male or feminist agenda. Well, that is not the case. Quite to the contrary, in fact. I have endeavored to open your eyes to things you might already instinctively have suspected about the unique attributes of women, and to frame them in the context of a world in desperate need. We men have our own strengths, equally indispensable, but I won't take time today to expound on them. This is ultimately all about the power of complementarity. It is an invitation to take up your rightful place as leaders in the public square. It's a call for a broader collaboration between men and women that hinges on an affirmation of the indispensable attributes that each bring. I believe that this was God's purpose all along. He ensured that neither men nor women would have everything they needed, and therefore would need to depend on each other. That is the delicate, intricate, beautiful dance that we were made for. Men and women working in concert. So you girls have it all in front of you. You have the advantage of having been blessed with this wonderful education and the values that came with it. So don't shy away. Don't allow yourselves to be sidelined. Don't allow yourselves to be intimidated. You have important work to do. And whether your life's journey takes you into the non-profit sector, or medicine, or finance, or politics, you will have the opportunity to lead and to be agents for change. And if enough of you and your fellow sisters are willing to take up this challenge, the world cannot help but be enriched by your involvement. It's no longer enough for women to participate. This is a call to leadership. You girls could make all the difference in the world.